Let us start our discussion with the meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissue are dividing tissues of plant. So before talking about meristematic tissue, now we should first learn how does a plant actually grow. Or in a young plant, this is the stem of the young plant. In this stem, there are certain cells at the tip of the stem. These are certain cell at the tip of the cell. These cells are actively dividing cells. So what will happen is that these cells, suppose they are initially 10 cells, we are supposing these 10 cells will divide and they will give rise to another 10 cells. So these were the 10 cells and these are another 10 cells. Thus this is how the division takes place in plants, and this is actually how the length of the plant increases. Now what happens here is that these 10 cells will again grow and the length will increase further, but these 10 cells, they will not grow. They will become permanent cells and they will do other function like storage, etc. So this is how the length of the stem increases. So what we learned is that the cells that are responsible to increase the length of the stem are present only at a certain location, not in the entire stem. These cells which are present at a certain location, or these are present at the tip of the stem. This is the stem of a plant. So these cells present at the tip of the stem are called apical meristem. Apical meristem cell. These are the cells present at the tip of the plant. So here we learned that the stem of the plant will first increase in length, and due to which type of cells? Due to the help of these cells present at the tip of the cell. These are meristematic cells, and these meristematic cells are called apical meristem cells, and these cells will give rise to these many. So this is how the length of a stem increases. But if we see in human, how does the growth of a human takes place? Is it like that this is the hand of a certain human and then the cells are present at this tip only and then this tip grows? No. The human being, the growth is diffused, means each part of the hand, there are cells which are present and the growth is in all direction, which is called the diffused growth. The growth basically takes place in all direction, but in plants the growth is at a certain location, and this localized growth is the special characteristic of the plants. Okay, so here we learn that the cells present at the tip of the stem are responsible for the growth of the plant. But what if we cut this tip, or in certain circumstances if a grazing animal, let's suppose this is a grass stem, if the grazing animal eats this part, then this tip is removed, then how the other part will grow? So here there is another type of meristem which is called intercalary meristem. Inter means, this word inter means between. The meristem which is present between the stem here at this position is called intercalary meristem. Now what is intercalary meristem? Intercalary meristem is basically group of cell which is present between the stem and which have the capability of division. If this apical meristem is cut down, then this intercalary meristem will grow and further increase the length of the stem. So this was the second meristem that we studied, which is intercalary meristem. So this apical, this is a stem of a plant, and here is the apical meristem, which is responsible for increase in length of the plant. In the roots of the plant also, at the root tip also, this apical meristem is present, which is responsible for the increase in length of these roots. Now, the growth of the plant takes place like this way, that first it increases its height and then increases its girth or breadth in this way. So first the length of the plant increases and then the breadth of the plant increases. So the length of plant increases by apical meristem, as we have studied. But how does this breadth or girth of the plant increases? And it becomes a tree. So here we can see that in these stems we have seen two type of meristem. This one present at the tip here is apical meristem, and in between there is intercalary meristem. There is another type of meristem which is present at these locations, which is called lateral meristem. Why it is called lateral meristem? Because it is responsible for lateral growth. These two meristem, apical and intercalary meristem, were responsible for increase in height only. This meristem is responsible for increase in the breadth of the plant, and the trunk widens in the plants. So this is how, and this meristem is called lateral meristem, which is responsible for increase in the breadth of the plant. This was an overview of three different type of meristem that we studied. Now we will study the exact location and in detail about these three meristems. So the meristematic tissue is divided in three parts: apical, intercalary, this is N, and lateral meristem. So if we draw the diagram of it, then this is the stem, and at this location, at the tip, we have apical meristem. At in between or between the stem, we have intercalary meristem. This is useful when this apical meristem is cut, and the lateral meristem is present here, which is responsible for this growth or the growth of the trunk. So these are the three meristems present in the stem. So now we study. This is the actual diagram. This is apical meristem. You can see this is the apical meristem, this is intercalary meristem, this is lateral meristem. Now what exactly is the meristem? This is nothing. These are just group of cells which have the capability of division. This lateral meristem is also a group of cell, intercalary meristem of group of cell. All are group of cell which has the capability of the division. Now the growth of plant occurs only in certain specific regions. We are reading in the text. This is because the dividing tissue known as the meristematic tissue is located only at this point. The meristematic tissue is located only at these points. At certain tip, only these meristematic tissue are located, and due to that, the growth of the plant takes place. The meristematic tissue is classified as apical, lateral, and intercalary meristem. New cells produced by meristem are initially like those of meristematic tissue itself. Means the meristematic tissue, when this divides, it produces new cells. These are new cells. These new cells are initially like that of meristematic tissue only, but after that, these new cells lose the capacity of division. Why? Because the capacity of division is possessed only by these cells present at the tip. So this new cell lose the capability of division and they become permanent cell. Like these were initial apical meristem, then they divided to give rise to these new cells, and these new cells will become increase in size or do any specific function, and these new cells are now called permanent cell, which we will study in the next slides. So the apical meristem The apical meristem is present at the growing tip of the stem and root. We have studied earlier that these cells present at the tip are called apical meristem and increases the length. The length is increased by this meristem. The girth of the stem or root, the girth means this breadth, is increased by this lateral meristem. And this lateral meristem is also called cambium. The intercalary meristem is seen in some plants at the node. This location is called node. Here you can see the intercalary meristem is present, which is a backup option. If the apical meristem is cut by grasses, then this intercalary meristem will grow and increase the length. Okay, now we quickly see the cells of the meristematic tissue. The cells of meristematic tissue are very active, means they continuously divide. This cell divides into continuously. The cell continuously divides and increase the length of the stem. So if the cell is continuously dividing, then some characteristic it should have, means it should not have large vacuoles. The large vacuoles will occupy most of the area of the cell, and then it will be difficult for them to divide. So if the cell is actively dividing, then it will not produce more waste material. So this cell lack large vacuoles. Apart from that, they have dense cytoplasm, thin cellulosic wall, thin cellulose wall, because if they become very thick walls, then also it is hard for them to divide. So thin walls, and they are actively living cells with prominent or large nucleus.